Every full moon, my family gathered, not for celebration, but for something they called the cleansing. The adults spoke about it like it was sacred. To me, it was a ritual of fear. We kids were herded into my grandmother's basement, made to sit in a circle under the harsh yellow light and spill out everything, every thought, every flicker of joy that didn't have the family at its center. If you didn't cry, really cry, it meant you weren't repentant enough. That's when corrections came. I was 7 the first time I learned what corrections truly were. My cousin Sarah, 9, told the circle she'd felt proud in math class for solving a problem before anyone else. Pride was a sin. Pride meant you'd put yourself before the family. Sarah's voice stayed steady. No tears. Grandma's smile vanished. No tears means no true repentance, she said. Sarah was taken upstairs with 3 aunts. When she came back, her face was swollen and she couldn't sit properly for a week. After that, we all learned how to cry on cue. The rules were simple and impossible. Joy from outside family time was betrayal. An A on a test? You loved school more than blood. A new friend? Divided loyalty? Singing along to the radio? Outsiders had corrupted your spirit. And the most twisted part? You also had to confess sins you might commit one day. If your list was too short, they'd say you were hiding something and rebelling in darkness. My little brother Marcus was 5 when he had his first real confession. He admitted he'd been happy sliding down the playground slide, but his tears weren't desperate enough. Dad leaned toward Grandma and said, "He's fighting it. The resistance is strong in this one." I knew what that meant. Marcus had 30 seconds to cry harder or face what Sarah had, so I pinched him hard in the soft skin under his arm where no one would see a bruise. His shriek brought real tears. "There it is," Grandma murmured, the spirit breaking through. After that, I became the pincher. Every cleansing, the younger kids would sit near me, waiting for my hidden hand to save them from worse pain. I traded small bruises for big scars. By 13, I was an expert at this performance. I kept fake sins ready, spaced them out month by month so they seemed believable. I practiced crying in the bathroom mirror, how to crack my voice, how to let the snot run just right. Still, the full moons came too fast. Every 28 days, another basement gathering, another night where tears were currency. And after each one, we had to thank them. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me enough to correct me. Thank you for keeping our family pure." The words turned to ash in my mouth. If you said them without enough gratitude, they started over. My cousin David learned that the hard way. One mumbled, "Thank you," cost him 4 more hours in the circle. Things escalated when my sister Emma turned 15. She was bold, always asking why we couldn't love God without the monthly interrogations. One night, she refused to confess anything, said she'd only thought about family all month. A lie so dangerous, the basement went still. Grandma rose slowly from her chair. They kept Emma upstairs for 3 hours. We heard footsteps, muffled sounds, silences worse than screams. When she returned, she wasn't broken, but she was careful. Her confessions afterward were flawless. Still, I caught her secretly counting something on her fingers. Days, maybe, until she turned 18. The October before my 16th birthday, the basement lights went out mid-cleansing. In the dark, a voice whispered, "I hate this. I hate them." Another answered, "Me too." I thought I was the only one. "How do we make it stop?" Someone breathed. The lights came back on, and we were crying again, confessing again, playing our roles. But something had shifted in that darkness. We all knew it. If we ever wanted to escape, it had to be together. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every shadow in my room looked like the basement walls, every creak in the house like footsteps coming for me. But under the fear was something sharper, an idea. The darkness had given us more than whispers. It had given us names. I now knew who hated the cleansing, who might be brave enough to risk more than a whispered "me too." For weeks after, we traded glances in hallways, in the kitchen, on the walk to church. We never spoke aloud. Walls had ears, and Grandma had listeners among the adults. But in the language of eyes, we began to plan. It started small, sharing scraps of food at school so the little ones wouldn't have to beg Grandma for lunch, passing notes tucked into hymnals, covering for each other during chores so someone could slip away for 10 precious minutes of fresh air. Then came the winter storm, the kind that howled so loud you couldn't hear your own thoughts. That night's cleansing was almost canceled. Almost. But Grandma insisted. "The storm is the devil's distraction," she said, while the wind rattled the windows. We sat in the circle. This time I didn't fake tears. I let my face go blank. No joy, no fear, nothing. And as the aunts began to notice, Emma cleared her throat. "I have a confession," she said. "I've been thinking about leaving." It was a suicide sentence. The room froze, the storm outside pressing its cold breath against the house. But before Grandma could speak, David said, "Me too." Then Sarah, "Me too." Then Marcus, small but fierce, "Me too." The room broke open, not with screams, but with a quiet, spreading defiance. For the first time, it wasn't just one of us against them. It was us. Grandma's face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Not anger, fear. And in that moment, I knew something important. The cleansing only worked if we were alone in our shame. Together, we were something she couldn't correct. That night didn't end in freedom, but it ended in a promise, one that tasted sweeter than fear. We wouldn't run yet, not until we had everything we needed, but the countdown had begun. The rain was sharp and cold, plastering my hair to my face. Somewhere in the darkness ahead, I could hear Emma's footsteps splashing, Marcus's quick little gasps, David's heavy breathing. We didn't speak. We didn't dare. The church bell struck 12:30, its chimes rolling through the wet night. Each one felt like a warning. 30 minutes until someone noticed. 30 minutes until Grandma's eyes narrowed and the whispers started. We cut through the cemetery where the ground turned to mud beneath our shoes. Sarah stumbled, her skirt catching on a jagged stone, but David yanked her free before she could cry out. Beyond the cemetery was the fence, rusted, taller than I remembered. Emma went first, climbing like she'd been born for it. I shoved Marcus up after her, then scrambled myself. The metal bit into my hands, but pain was just noise now. We hit the ground on the other side and ran. The plan was simple: reach the old road by the creek. If we got there before the church emptied, we'd be ghosts by morning. Halfway there, the sound hit us. An engine. Headlights cut through the rain behind us. A car tearing down the road too fast, tires hissing on the wet pavement. Go, David hissed, shoving me forward. We darted into the trees, branches whipping at our faces. The car slowed, then stopped. Through the trees, I could see a door swing open. A figure stepped out. Even in the rain, even in the dark, I knew the way she moved. Grandma. Children. Her voice was almost sweet, but it carried like thunder through the woods. Come back now, and all will be forgiven, Marcus whimpered. I grabbed his hand and squeezed until he stopped. We crouched low, holding our breath as her flashlight beam swept over the trees. The light lingered on the mud at our feet, where our prints led straight toward us. Emma leaned close to my ear. We move on 3, she whispered. Don't look back. 1. The beam crept closer. 2. Grandma called my name, soft, almost pleading. 3. We ran. Branches clawed at our clothes, mud sucked at our shoes, but we didn't stop until the road appeared in front of us, empty, endless, and wide open. For the first time in my life, I realized the night wasn't a prison. It was a way out. The rain had eased to a cold mist, but the wind still whipped at our clothes, carrying the smell of wet earth and pine. Every sound was sharper now. The snap of a branch, the slap of water against the creek bank, the faint growl of the dogs, somewhere behind us. We stayed off the main road, cutting through the tree line where the undergrowth clawed at our legs. The mud made every step heavier, but it also covered our tracks. At least that's what I told myself. Marcus was starting to lag, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts. David scooped him up without a word, muscles straining but pace unbroken. Then Emma froze. She held up a hand. We all stopped, the silence, pressing in around us. Up ahead, between the trees, a light flickered. Not headlights. Something dimmer, warmer, fire. We moved closer, every step slow, deliberate. And then we saw it. A cabin, old, leaning, its windows glowing faintly through the rain-streaked glass, smoke curling from the crooked chimney. Emma turned to me, her eyes wide. We can't stay out here, she whispered. We'll freeze before morning. David's jaw tightened. Or we walk right into a trap. The dogs barked again, closer this time. We didn't have time to argue. Emma moved first, creeping toward the cabin. I followed, my pulse thundering in my ears. The front door was half rotten, hanging on rusted hinges. Emma knocked once, twice. No answer. David shoved it open. The smell hit first. Wood smoke and something sweet, like dried herbs. The place was empty, but not abandoned. A blanket folded neatly on the chair. A kettle still warm on the stove. Someone's here, I murmured. The door creaked behind us. We spun. A figure stood in the doorway, rain dripping from the brim of their wide hat. They didn't speak, just looked at us, then past us, toward the trees where the barking was closing in. Finally, they said, "If you want to live, get to the cellar. Now." The match burned low, and the stranger blew it out. We were swallowed again by blackness, except for the faint glow from a single grimy window near the ceiling. Rain streaked down the glass, distorting the shapes outside. Marcus pressed himself against me, trembling. His breath was warm against my arm, too quick. Emma's hand found mine, her grip unsteady. Above us, the footsteps started again, slow, deliberate. Whoever was up there knew we were close. David leaned toward the stranger, his whisper sharp. "Who are you?" For a moment, the only answer was the sound of water dripping from somewhere in the cellar. Then, in that same calm voice, the stranger said, "Someone who's been running longer than you've been alive." Emma's eyes narrowed. From her, the stranger didn't answer. A sudden crash upstairs made Marcus flinch. The floorboards groaned under heavy weight. Something metallic hit the wood with a ringing clang. A dropped tool, a weapon. The stranger motioned for silence, then began feeling along the far wall. Their fingers found a seam in the rough stone. With a low grunt, they pushed, and a hidden panel swung inward to reveal a narrow tunnel, swallowed in pitch black. "This doesn't lead out," the stranger murmured. "It leads away. And right now, that's what matters." The barking erupted. Again, so close it rattled the window glass. Boots thundered above us. David didn't wait for permission. He grabbed Marcus and started into the tunnel. Emma followed. I went last, the stranger right behind me. The air grew colder, the walls damp. We could no longer hear the storm, only our footsteps and the steady drip, drip, drip echoing in the dark. Somewhere far ahead, the stranger's voice floated back to us, low and almost reverent. "She'll never stop." And for the first time that night, I wondered if running was only making her hunt us harder. The deeper we went, the narrower the tunnel became, forcing us to hunch. My shoulders scraped damp stone and something skittered across my foot. Marcus whimpered, but David whispered, whispered, "Keep moving." The air smelled older here, like soil that had never seen the sun. My fingertips brushed over grooves in the wall, and I realized they weren't cracks. They were scratches, deep ones. Emma's voice was barely a breath. "These are claw marks." A faint sound echoed from ahead, like breathing, but wrong. Too slow, too deep. The stranger stopped so suddenly that I bumped into them. "We're not alone," they murmured. From the darkness ahead, something shifted. A glint? Metal? No. Eyes. Cold seeped through my spine. The figure in the dark didn't move, but I could feel it watching us. The stranger stepped forward, hand slipping under their coat. "Stay behind me." The thing spoke. Its voice was hoarse, broken, like dry leaves dragging over stone. "You're late."